Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the quarantine film series. Film series. Great conversations with filmmakers. I'm getting religious about this now, doing one almost every day. Um, I'm your host, Kabir Segal, coming to you from Atlanta, from my parents' place here. My mom is secretly watching. Hi, Mom. I need all the Wi-Fi signal. We love you. So I want to share. We're doing this quarantine concert series by now. You know, we have concerts every single night, 10 p.m. Eastern, with wonderful artists because all the gigs have gone away and it's hard. Venues have canceled their performances until 2021, Carnegie Hall, and so forth. So we started this concert series in earnest to put the spotlight on incredible artists who share their music and virtuosity with you. We've also extended the platform. Shane, who produces the show, and we created our first film this year, and we were so excited to hit the film festival circuit. Shane was shopping for new shoes and new suit and everything, and they've all been canceled. And without the film festival, it's hard to find distributors and sales agents. Hard to get the buzz going on these films, and a lot of these films people have worked on for years. And that's why we've created this platform. We do these conversations, as you know, at 10:30 a.m. Eastern in the morning on all platforms: Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. We are on Instagram after the fact, and also on LinkedIn. So find us everywhere. And that's what I'm really excited about today. We have an incredible filmmaker who is making a project at the highest of levels. When you watch his stuff, it's like the craft and the editing and everything down to the last detail. He has a real attention for detail, and it's amazing to see his work. An Academy Award nominee, an acclaimed filmmaker. His recent movie, known as The Last Out, it won a special jury mention at the Tribeca Film Festival. And it's a great story, and I want to welcome to the show the maestro himself, Sami Khan. Welcome.
Thanks so much for having me, Kabir. It's great to be here. It's awesome to just have events like this. Like you said, it's kind of unprecedented time for artists and filmmakers and musicians. So more stuff like this is desperately needed.
My pleasure. It's great to have you. Tell me first, where are you broadcasting from?
I'm actually in Toronto.
Okay.
Yeah, Toronto's over here. There you go.
Hi, Toronto. See you in a while. So tell me first, how's the quarantine affected you? What do you have in the offing that was going to happen that's not happening now?
Yeah, so it's interesting because it's kind of hard to quantify. On the one hand, we have like The Last Out, which was premiering at the Tribeca Film Festival and won a special jury mention, which has been sidetracked because Tribeca was canceled. Every festival until now has been canceled. But on the flip side, I got nominated for an Academy Award. So there's a certain amount of heat that comes with that and interest in my work. And, I've been busy on Zoom pitching projects, connecting with high profile production companies and other talent. So I've been really, really busy. I also work in fiction, and I worked on a TV show here in Toronto, which just got picked up by NBC. So it's been like kind of between two worlds. It's The Last Out has been a little bit delayed, and we're trying to figure out what's going on. But on the other hand, I'm busier than ever, and I think it gives me an appreciation just for how fortunate I am as a kind of knowledge worker. Where my career is impacted, but my health and my safety isn't. The way for physicians and nurses and porters in hospitals, not to mention all the grocery store workers who are out there, putting their lives and their families' lives on the line so that the system keeps running.
Yeah, I hear you. Tell me, thanks for sharing that. Tell me, what is The Last Out about? Maybe you can tell us what the premise is, and what's the journey that you take the viewers on along the way.
Yeah, absolutely. So The Last Out's a verite documentary. It's about three Cuban baseball players who are lured out of Cuba by a Cuban American sports agent, and they're training in Central America and Costa Rica, trying to make it to the major leagues. So the beginning of the film is we're following them showcase their skills for these major league scouts who come down there and watch them. And then when one of them, that guy actually Happy, our main character, is cut, He's basically abandoned by the agent in Costa Rica, and he has to decide, what am I going to do? Am I going to stay in this foreign country, which is, much closer to the United States than it is to Cuba, small town Cuba, where he's from, or am I going to try and travel by land to the U.S. border? So we kind of use sports and baseball as a hook to get you to care about a story that's about more than just between the lines. It's about the cost of the American dream. It's about this false promise that the guys have been sold. It's about migration, and it's about risking it all to chase your dreams and to try and make a better life for your family. But Happy, like his name suggests, he's like this force of nature. His name says it all. He's like, even under the most difficult circumstances, and he risks so much over the course of the film. Dangerous journey from Ecuador to Costa Rica by land, through narco-controlled territory, and then when he's making his way to the U.S. border, he also puts his life on the line. But still, he has this the spirit that endures, and it's something that I think a lot of us can take a lot away from. And I wish I had more of sort of Happy in me, and he taught me a lot. Yeah, it was a great collaboration between sort of three close friends making this film. When we got the news that Tribeca had selected it, we were so excited because it was like 5 years to that point, and now we just have to be a little more patient and figure out what the next path is. But we'll see. We're nothing if not patient, and things seem like they're getting better in California and even up here in Toronto. So hopefully people will be able to get to see the film really soon.
Wonderful. I have a question about the immigration. It's interesting you look at immigration through baseball in a way, these topics of migration. And in Cuba, how was playing in the major leagues perceived? How was that among the government and among the players? And how did you navigate filming in these places that are hard to film in?
Yeah, so I mean, that's where Cubans have that added wrinkle where the U.S. embargo is still in place on Cuba. It's like, if you're, for all intents and purposes, it's like you're coming from North Korea, because you're Americans and U.S. permanent residents and U.S. companies are banned from doing business with Cubans. So it's not like a Dominican where you can just sign straight out of the Dominican Republic. For Cubans, they have to go either directly to the U.S., which is a dangerous journey, or go to a third country. And invariably, players go to a third country because it maximizes their ability to sign a free agent contract. If you go to the U.S. directly, then you're shuttled into the draft, and your earnings are capped. So what interested me about the story, and my parents are immigrants. What interested me about it was this intersection of the personal and the politics, the personal and the political. I'm kind of fascinated by how our lives can get impacted by just like forces beyond our control. Government policy, decision makers. I mean, we see it now with the pandemic, how like decisions, we have such little control in our lives. And like, how do you deal with that? And you see that play out over the course of the film, how these guys are like able and not able to deal with that. And again, Happy, to his credit, he's able to just keep his focus, even though the sort of the dream changes and Major League stardom becomes elusive. He's able to sort of hold on to his dignity and his humanity in a way some of the other guys struggle. And the way we found the story was actually through the agent of all people. He has a fascinating backstory in and of himself. He's Cuban American. He came to the U.S. in the 1960s on what was called the Freedom Flights, which was an agreement between the U.S. and Cuban governments. And in the early 90s, he was actually designing, he was a graphic designer fresh out of college, and he had designed a a Jose Canseco candy bar. He had like graphically designed that, and he was at a Miami radio station where at the same time, it just so happened that Rene Arocha, the first defector from the Cuban national team, was there, and they ended up talking, a couple of Cuban guys in South Florida. And, depending on who you talk to, either Rene convinced Gus to represent him, or Gus talked himself into being his agent. Whatever happened, Gus became Rene's agent, and Rene signed with the St. Louis Cardinals for millions of dollars and had a successful career for a number of years. And then every Cuban player ended up going to Gus for the next 5-6 years, all these high profile Cubans. But then what happened about 10 years ago was Gus was like operating in this gray area, and he actually was charged, was indicted, and prosecuted and convicted for being part of a smuggling ring. So he went to jail for like 3 years. And when we started The Last Out, we thought we were kind of telling the story of redemption for him, and these 3 players in Costa Rica are his chance at redemption. But again, to that idea of sort of being trapped by the past, being trapped by these political forces, Gus ends up, becoming the antagonist and becoming the source of, strife for the players, and treating them almost like they're commodities, not that like they're human beings. And for artists and filmmakers and musicians, I think that's something we all can relate to, where how our dreams are used against us, how our willingness to work for free just for the passion of the project can be perverted by some people. And that's something that, we as filmmakers really, really keyed into, and, it resonated profoundly with us.
Yeah. I remember watching an Anthony Bourdain special on Cuba, and he said something about there was people sort of, you don't really have freedom of speech there, but people go to a central area and they argue about baseball, and you have to get a special license to argue about baseball. And those conversations are kind of fraught with, you're really talking about immigration and politics, but through the guise of baseball. Do you know what I'm talking about? Did you discover some of this where like baseball...
Yeah, you're talking about the Esquina Caliente, which is in Havana, and it's a place, a famous place where, guys go to argue baseball. And it's interesting now because one of the things that we've noticed is how, it's not just in the U.S., but like in Cuba too, the passion for baseball is changing, and soccer is really getting a stranglehold on Cuban young people. You don't see Jeter Yankee jerseys, you see Barca jerseys, you see Messi jerseys, maybe now, it's been a couple years since I've been there, but maybe now you see like Neymar PSG jerseys, and Ronaldo, obviously. So that it'll always hold this kind of mythic space in the Cuban national character because of the way, Cuba can directly take on the United States. David can directly take on Goliath. And I mean, you just there are brief clips because our film is like takes place in the present and verite, but you see like a 4-year-old child who is like honestly has a better swing than me, which is like pretty incredible. But Happy says it's like in his blood, and it really is.
Yeah, I hear you. Your favorite baseball team, Blue Jays?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
All right. Talk to me about the craft of making it. What cameras did you use? And also walk me through the post-production process. What did he edit in, and your editing process?
Yeah. That's actually, I love talking about this because a lot of it was somewhat scientific, in the sense that I think we discovered something. I think we made a breakthrough for ourselves as filmmakers and sort of found our voice. And at first we were shooting with a variety of formats. My partner, John, who's the main cinematographer, John's on the left in that picture. He has an Alexa, so we were shooting on the Alexa. But we found that it was just too bulky. And as the project shifted from being about the agent more to being about Happy and the other guys, we started to rely on the camera that's in John's hand there, which is the C300, which is a great camera for verite documentary filmmaking. And the sort of wrinkle and the brilliant move that John did was he had these like vintage Nikkor lenses, like these old lenses, which have these really great, this really great texture and this really great, these great lens flares to them. So it gives the film this intimacy, this warmth and this intimacy that's almost timeless. And the vast majority of the film was shot on that. There are moments that were shot on DSLRs, but 80% of the film was shot on the C300 with these vintage prime lenses. You can see me shooting in Cuba with Happy's family with that system. And so over the years we're sort of working on that. And when it came time to shoot St. Louis Superman, which is the film that got nominated for the Academy Award, and documentary short, it just lent itself, the subject matter just lent itself to capturing the story in the same way. And and it was perfectly primed to do that. And then our film was edited by two incredible editors. One, Carla Gutierrez, who cut a film called RBG about the Supreme Court justice, and she made a great film called When Two Worlds Collide, which is about this indigenous leader in Peru. And then Mark Becker, who he made a film called Romantico, and we're lucky to have him because he's a director too, but he also edits. And we cut in Premiere, which was good and bad, to be honest. Love-hate relationship with Premiere. I cut a little bit of the film, and we all did a little bit of the organizing of the project. So it was good in that sense, where we all didn't need to have Avid. And then we posted it mostly in New York with a little bit in Toronto. And post was actually interrupted a little bit by the shutdown. We had to make some adjustments with like the sound mix and with the color correction, and had to do that remotely, which slowed us down a bunch.
Yeah, I can't wait to see it. And speaking about that, what is your plan for distribution? How can people learn about where you are and where you are with the distribution plan? Maybe we could put your Twitter up there. There you go. So if you're watching at home and you want to get the latest on what's happening, check out Sami Khan Film on Twitter. Hopefully we'll post updates there, and tell us what's the plan to get it out in the world.
Yeah, so I mean, we have a sales agent. We're fortunate. We're repped by kind of big agency, and right now we're just waiting to see what happens, how the market takes shape, because essentially what's happened is a big chunk of the market is gone. Like theatrical distributors just aren't buying stuff, and for independent film, festival films, that's like a big buyer. So we're just waiting to see what happens. What happens with Cannes in a few weeks, and what happens with the fall festivals, and so hopefully by the end of the year, if it's not, if we haven't sold it, we'll at least be having a robust festival run, which is starting to take shape right now, and we're starting to get those confirmations of festival invites, which is exciting. And whether they're physical or digital, we'll be in a theater near you, or digital streaming platform near you soon.
Awesome. Also, we wish you all the best with the film. Obviously, this takes so much time to put together. We're music producers here, so tell us about the music real quick on The Last Out. Who'd you work with, and how'd you put that together?
Yeah, so the composers are amazing, actually. Saul Simon McWilliams and Billy Libby did our score, and Saul is like a really experienced composer. He worked on Beasts of the Southern Wild and works with those guys, and he helped score my good friend's film, Suitable Girl, which Smriti is my co-director on St. Louis Superman. And I talked about this sort of the timeless, like magical quality with the lenses and the lens flares that John designed, but Saul and Billy really were able to accentuate that with their score. And like a documentary, you don't think of a documentary being sort of having like epic sweep, or like that kind of that mythic quality to it, but that's something that was really important for us. We wanted to try and do that, and Billy and Saul were able to capture that, and the score is incredible. I'm so happy with it, and we're fortunate to work with them.
Can't wait to see it. And we we already know about your incredible previous project, St. Louis Superman, which was nominated for an Academy Award. Congratulations! Tell us a little bit about that for people who I'm sure some people know, but if you're learning for the first time and you're watching this for the first time, tell us about St. Louis Superman and the premise of that.
Yeah, so St. Louis Superman is about Bruce Franks Jr., who in 2014 was a battle rapper, community leader in somewhat, but a father. And then when Michael Brown was killed, Bruce was basically politically awakened, and he decided to run for political office and challenge like a really entrenched, corrupt political candidate in his district in St. Louis. So it's about Bruce. It's about the incredible person that he is. He has like a really tragic sort of foundational story, having lost his brother to gun violence when they were really young. His brother was used as a human shield by a gunman and was shot. And so the film follows Bruce as he's trying to get this bill passed to honor his late brother and to have youth violence declared a public health epidemic. But it's about so much more than that. It's about Bruce's relationship with his son. It's about overcoming trauma and dealing with mental health. And it was just like good fortune, like that image that you're showing with Bruce and his son. It was just that is like exemplifies the luck of the project, where we weren't even supposed to be shooting with Bruce that day. We're supposed to be shooting with his mom, but I just picked up the camera and started filming. And the opening scene is like Bruce and his son King talking about Ghostbusters, and then it has this turn where King, his son, asks about his birthday, which is August 9th, which is the same day that Michael Brown was killed. And so, again, there's like this mythic sort of legendary aspects to Bruce's life. The film premiered at Tribeca in 2019, was acquired by MTV, and actually on Monday of this week, it began airing on MTV in the United States. So people can check out MTV and their local listings to see when it's going to be playing. Yeah, he's an incredible person, and just greatness surrounds him.
Very cool, very cool. And we're so excited to have you on because you created such the highest levels. And thanks for sharing more about that film and about The Last Out. We wish you all the best with the next few months. I know you have to sort of navigate a new terrain for getting your film out there, but I know you can do it if anyone can. So with that, everyone, the great Sami Khan. Again, check him out on Twitter to get updated on the latest on The Last Out. And let me tell you about tonight. Tonight we have a great, that's it for the Quarantine Film Series today. Tonight we have a great concert. We're going to be shooting it in multicam. So check it out at 10 p.m. Eastern. The great Berta Morena, and she's going to be in studio, in a music studio. The first time we're doing this, and we're having like 3 or 4 different cameras doing different angles. So this is a little taste of what's to come with the Quarantine Concert Series. Hopefully more advanced cinematography, which I'm sure Sami would like with his incredible camera skills. All right, so everyone have a great day, and if you can, stay home. Take care, everyone.